So our next speaker is going to be David Brodowski. He is president with TrueTech Bridge, and he's going to present on his technology through the ITD program, transparent stay-in-place deck forms. So everyone, please welcome David.
Good afternoon, everyone. Dave Brodowski, TrueTech Bridge. I want to say a quick thank you to John Hooks for this opportunity, for squeezing me in, and also just all the opportunities he's provided all of us within the ITD group. We're going to miss you, so congrats on retirement. Also want to thank the Arizona DOT. This conference has been awesome. It's always one of my favorites, so appreciate you guys hosting. So the purpose of this presentation is to report on the ITD project that we partnered with the Indiana Department of Transportation and HNTB as the consultant on the use of transparent stay-in-place forms for a project in LaPorte, Indiana. You can see the brief agenda here. Some of you may be unfamiliar with transparent stay-in-place forms, so I'll give a little bit of background on the purpose of those. Then I'm going to also talk through a new product that's kind of been developed through working with state DOTs and some of their preservation efforts. So John mentioned the ITD group and the purpose of that. If you haven't been to the website, here's a list of all the products that are involved. Most of these products are used on existing and deteriorating bridge decks. Our product's a little bit different because we're used basically for new construction. So it's a technology that we put it in during the initial construction so you can inspect the deck at the time of casting it, which has long-term benefits, but also help owners see any defects over time so they can take action and preserve that deck. So here's the technology. It goes by the brand name ClearCast Forms. It's a transparent stay-in-place form that allows owners to inspect the concrete during placement, then also comply with those routine inspections, helping them preserve that deck over time. And transparent forms were basically developed in response to 3 owner and contractor pain points. So they're always looking for a system that allows contractors to be more productive, to how to get their bridges built faster. Contractors and owners want a way to improve safety on their job sites. And they know that by reducing exposure to construction activities, they can do that. They can be safer. Third, owners want to know the condition over time and then take the right action at the right time to preserve their bridge deck. So because of that, transparent forms were developed, and they've quickly gained traction across the United States because of those benefits. So a little bit about our company, TrueTech Bridge. Contractors and bridge owners look to us to drastically save time, improve productivity, and then help them meet their bridge preservation goals. We're based out of Raleigh, North Carolina, and we're a design supply company of bridge products for the highway market. We currently supply 2 products. That's the ClearCast Forms, but also ClearCatch panels, which I'll review towards the end of the presentation. So depending on where you're from, you probably know your state's stance on stay-in-place forms. Transparent forms meet a need for speed and safety in these orange states. Usually in those states, stay-in-place forms are prohibited. So we help contractors eliminate the time and risks involved in stripping forms over traffic, over railroads, other dangerous situations. In the gray states, transparent forms help improve preservation. And that's all through the ability to inspect the underside of the deck, helping those owners have more accurate condition ratings and the ability to make any small repairs before they become major risks. So here's the 2 major primary views of the underside of the deck for bridges throughout the United States. Looking at the big picture from construction productivity and safety, deck quality during construction, routine inspections and maintenance. You can see and compare those here. There's a new option now, transparent forms, which are a good compromise for contractors, owners considering the short-term and long-term goals of each. So visibility is important because those routine inspections lead to the condition ratings. Talking about following Glenn's presentation, that's important so they can take bridge preservation action and know the condition. The AASHTO National Bridge Deck Preservation Working Group states it pretty clearly in their resource guide, the importance of a bridge deck. It's like a roof that provides protection of those underlying elements from environmental conditions, which then correlates to extended service life of the entire bridge. They also go on to talk about the impact of construction quality, which they say is the first and most salient factor to optimizing service life for a given bridge deck design. So stay-in-place metal visibility to the underside of the deck is obstructed and cannot be inspected. To take this a step further, once the deck overlay is done on the top of the deck, then neither surface of that deck can be seen, and this is something that has concerned inspectors and bridge owners across the country. So Indiana DOT had been using stay-in-place decking for over 40 years. They'd recently been putting more of a focus on the value of inspections, and they're aware of some of the uncertainties they have in terms of the condition of their metal form bridge decks. Some within their department, I believe, wanted to prohibit stay-in-place forms going forward, but the construction group realized that there's some safety aspects of stripping forms over traffic and high heights, so they were looking for options. And Indiana DOT is not alone. There's a lot of bridge owners that tell us they need a stay-in-place form that is both buildable and inspectable, so a form that meets the needs of the contractor and the owner. So as Indiana was evaluating our transparent forms, around that time we were accepted into the ITD working group. So we partnered with INDOT's Jeremy Hunter as the sponsor and HNTB as a consultant to report on the use of transparent forms for a bridge deck in LaPorte, Indiana. So a few details of the project here. The existing bridge was built in 1957. INDOT did a rehab in 1989, which was the first deck replacement. And then the project that we're working on was the second deck replacement just 31 years later. It's a 4-span continuous steel girder bridge. It's carrying US 20 over the Indiana Toll Road, which has about 28,000 vehicles per day. So both the deck and the girders were showing signs of deterioration. You can see the rusting and the efflorescence of the metal pans here. And INDOT specified permanent transparent forms in the plans. The square footage of forms was around 14,000 square feet. Project bid back in 2019 for a low bid price of $2 million. So TrueTech Bridge, we provide both the design and the supply of this form system. We prepare all the shop drawings and calculations for every project, custom details for the contractor to do the installation properly. Just due to time constraints, I'm not going to go over those details, but just know that's one of the services we provide. So here's the installation of the first phase. This was a 2-phase project, and it went really well for it being the first time for this contractor in the state. Images here of the forms put in place just prior to rebar installation. And the welded support system is exactly the same as what's used for corrugated metal forms, so contractors are very familiar with that process. All the forms do come prefabricated and install very fast once those support components are in place. And you can see the skewed forms here at the abutments to match the existing bridge geometry. So photos here during the deck pour below the deck. Owners tell us they like to see what's happening during the deck pour and confirm consolidation of the concrete, making sure they're getting what they're paying for. Second stage installation here. You can see the pallet of forms sitting on the bridge. Each of these weigh about 65 pounds, which is easy for 2 people to pick up and handle and install them. The second stage went much faster than the first since they had a little bit of experience. See the second stage deck pour here, stage 1 on the right, stage 2 on the left. And this is what everybody's interested, a photo of the underside of the deck. This was about 6 months after the stage 1 pour. You can see 75% of that deck surface through the forms compared to what they were used to, which was 0%. And I think this photo is interesting. You can see where the rebar subcontractor marked these little white chalk lines on the forms just to show the spacing of that longitudinal reinforcing. So you can't see this on any other type of form system, and I think that could come in handy in the future to know where that rebar is located. Photo at the stage line, so the deck on the left side of the girder was formed and stripped. The right side obviously has the transparent stay-in-place form, just for comparison. And then I've got some snippets here, might be difficult to read, but this is our latest ITD report. The overall objective of this project was very simple. They broke it into 2 parts. Number 1 was the contractor's installation rate, similar to what they're used to for stay-in-place metal forms, and then did the deck forms handle the deck pour. And then number 2, they wanted to report on the visibility of the underside of the deck over at least 2 inspection cycles. This project has had the initial inspection. We did an interview with the inspector. That's highlighted in red if you go check out the report. But basically, the owner, the consultant, all their observations were, visibility was good, no concerns. We'll continue to monitor. And that interview actually addressed a lot of the issues that typically come up about hazing, fogging, birds, none of which were an issue. A couple photos here of the bridge inspection report. The top surface of the deck already has a couple cracks. No cracks were noticed on the underside of the deck yet. The inspector was pleased with the visibility and the condition of the forms themselves. And the forms were clear just like they were during the initial installation. Quick summary of the benefits to Indiana DOT. Their experience confirmed the productivity and the constructability that they were used to, and now they've gained that visibility to the underside of the deck. So transparent forms now help them with their condition ratings, reducing risk, and then extend the life of that deck through preservation actions. A few other benefits have come to light after talking with the asset management inspection team. They've had some deck quality issues on some recent projects where they feel like transparent forms would have been a good fit. So they had some concrete honeycombing. They had to go back and replace the deck portion of it within just 1 or 2 years. So that's an issue of the upfront deck pour that they want to have more visibility for. Also, they've done some of these hydro demolition overlays. As they got into it 2 or 3 inches down, the underside of the deck was corroded. Those turned into full depth overlays, resulting in a change order, issues with traffic. It just kind of became a mess. So they're seeing this as a good option moving forward. So since they were pleased with that first project, they did a second project. That was a pre-stressed girder bridge. This time it's in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And the idea here is to get a second district and second contractor involved just to confirm what they saw in the first project. So here's a quick video showing how that project went. I'll spare you the music here. So this was stage construction. It was only about 6,300 square feet, so half the size of the initial project that we did. The rebar subcontractor also did the deck installation for the project. They had a crew of 3, and it took them 2.5 days for each phase to install the deck forms. They really liked the system from an install perspective. And INDOT, again, liked the fact that they could see that concrete being placed and confirm concrete consolidation. INDOT's currently evaluating where transparent forms give them the most value. For example, bridges over mainline traffic, flyovers, major river crossings, anything that they can go back and inspect and preserve those decks so that they can push any major rehabs or deck replacements into the future. So I did ask INDOT's asset management engineer to get me a quote, and he just sent me an email before the presentation, so I'm just going to read that out loud. These are his words. I know it's probably better than hearing me the whole time, but so here's his statement. When I heard about clear forms, I couldn't wait to try them. The stay-in-place metal forms work well, but do not allow inspection to see present or future deck cracking or seepage. To be able to see the bottom of the deck as it ages is of invaluable assistance. No more inspection guessing or waiting for rust to form. An added benefit, which I had not counted on, was being able to see the bottom of the deck during and after the pour. To see that the concrete is mixed well, that there is no segregation of aggregate to the bottom of the forms, but a nice slick finish is amazing to see and gives credibility to the assumptions we make of the concrete placement. I'm hoping to be able to use these on all of my deck pours in the future. So great quote from the asset management team at INDOT. It was great working with them. So because bridge owners are recognizing these benefits of speed and preservation, we've been getting some momentum with this ClearCast product. The first installation was in Iowa back in 2017. We've since been installed in Minnesota, Oklahoma, Illinois, Washington, obviously Indiana. Future project installations in the next couple of years in Missouri, New York, Kansas, Ohio, Virginia, and Caltrans. Recently approved by Pennsylvania DOT, and we're now included on the approved bridge products list. We're looking for a demonstration project now, but we've also been instructed to meet with a shortlisted group of contractors for PennDOT's P3 Major Bridges project. The value there is the contractor that gets that job has to build and maintain it for 35 years. So using a transparent system like that will give them the credibility they're turning it over in the right condition, not having to go back and redo a deck after 35 years. So that kind of concludes the transparent form portion of the presentation. I thought it'd be good to provide a brief overview of a new product that's been developed as a result of talking with other DOTs on their bridge deck preservation efforts and some of the challenges they're facing. So we discovered we can make some minor adjustments to our panel system to work as subdecking or protective shield beneath existing bridge decks that are in poor condition and failing. So a lot of states use false decking underneath existing bridges because of the safety concern with poor condition decks. They have to remain in service until they get replaced. So when bridge decks start to crumble, it's usually something that makes the news because of the damage it could make to the car. Obviously, there's a concern for injuries to people. So the current materials that are used for subdecking are basically lumber and Michigan DOT uses metal mesh panels. You can see some of the pros and cons listed here for each. Obviously lumber, if you're an inspector, it's restricting the visibility to the deck. You're in a dark, confined space. Over time, if that's there for too long, that wood starts to rot and people can step through it, we've heard. For metal mesh, it's been a good solution for Michigan to date. It allows visibility so they can do that prospecting from below. The issue is that it does allow for 1-inch material or less to fall through. So it's still an issue of stuff falling onto traffic or people. So they like the transparent feature of the metal mesh. Finding these is difficult. It's an expensive product, and they're looking for an alternative. So here's an example of the metal mesh panels doing their job, catching a delaminated bridge deck somewhere in Michigan, hopefully where you've never driven. For situations like this, INDOT developed a drop test to ensure the safety of these types of panels. So if you know Jason DeRuver, he likes to break things. And basically they have a load test set up where they look at their inventory of bridges. They go up to about a 9-foot girder spacing. They have basically a 5-foot drop from the top of the bottom of the deck to the top of the panel. And what they want to test is, can a system catch this without letting that panel fall through? And for our system, they wanted to make sure that they could not break this polycarbonate sheet. And so this was the 9-foot span that you just saw. This was an 8-foot. This is roughly 700 pounds rotated in both directions, falling on the worst point load on top of the plastic between the steel joists, and the panel performed better than expected. So currently this system is about $10 a square foot cheaper than their metal mesh panels, and goes up fast. It's reusable, so they can take it down and store it. They can put it on different bridges across the state as needed. And we tested a smaller 5.5-foot span. We can use a little bit less steel gauge and a thinner piece of plastic at that level. So it's a little bit more economical for those. But fun test, don't recommend doing that at home. So the result here was a lightweight, transparent fall stacking system that's durable and sustainable, helping any owner improve the safety of some of their aging bridge decks. But overall, this product is an example of what can come out of this partnership between owners and suppliers working together to solve a problem and then developing a cost-effective solution. The last slide here, we've been fortunate to have repeat projects with the Indiana DOT, and we have more projects coming up with states that are specifying transparent forms to help them meet their asset management goals in the future. And this success can be attributed to this ITD program, which helps facilitate these relationships. And this community has been great to work with. We're always open to more ITD projects, as John mentioned. So if you have any, please contact me. And I'd also encourage you to check out these other products on the ITD page, because we could all use the support. So with that, I thank you all for your attention, and I'll open up for questions.
I had a couple of questions, actually. First question was, why would bird nesting be a problem for this as compared to anything else?
They aren't. They're just a perceived concern. That's been asked by DOTs.
Why would you perceive that?
I didn't. Other states have brought that up.
I don't understand that at all. The two other questions was, these will still sort of hold water. So do you think over years, sometime 15 years from now, we're going to have maintenance crews drilling holes in it to let the water out? Or that's the second question. The third question is more serious than that one, which is, do you have any issue with the traction on this when the workers are laying rebar? It wouldn't seem like it would be a really OSHA-approved sort of friction level on that. I just wondered if that's something you can...
No, so the first question...
I don't know anything about it, but I just wanted to ask.
Yep, the first question, we get that a lot. So once that deck, you get a through crack and moisture starts penetrating, you get moisture. You see it, you can go up and drill through this plastic. It's less than a 1/4 inch thick. So you can cut it out, drill a hole. It's acrylic sheet for the deck form, but yeah, it's easy to take out and change. Also, contractors are used to taking the entire form out if they have to, so you can get full access. Second question, that was about the slick surface. So there is a masking on the panels that is left in place until right before rebar. And so that is a fine surface, it's not slippery. If it gets wet, it can be slick, but we hear it's nothing worse than walking on oiled down formwork. Like, we haven't had an issue with it. We just tell people to take care like they would on any other surface, and hasn't been an issue.
That's a great idea. And you mentioned how the clear catch was more cost effective than the metal mesh system for catching. In terms of the forms itself, how does that compare to SIPs? And even if it's more expensive, I think it's worth it, but just curious how the costs compare now.
Right, so we get that question all the time, and we don't like to compare to stay-in-place metal. Number one, it's usually included in the cost of the deck, so we don't know actually what people or what states are getting charged for those forms. And also, we don't consider it apples and apples because you can't see through it and inspect it. But we are a premium, I guarantee we are, or else contractors would be using us all the time on every project. We typically look at it as it's the same or less than using wood, because the contractor has to build the wood, pour the deck, go back and strip it, so we can offset a significant amount of labor. So that cost is basically a one-to-one, and we always save significant time. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
The preceding was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found on the web at pavementpreservation.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.